You got some thoughts on Facebook.
Yes.
And mostly positive ones, right?
Yeah, well, positive on the stock.
Yeah.
I think Zuckerberg's being a little disingenuous there. It wasn't the question that he's right that it was hard to pick up, but it was more what the New York Times documented pretty thoroughly is after it came out, after there were all sorts of warning flags, they sort of denied, obfuscation, hid it, tried to mislead, attack, and that's where, I think they fell down. But I think they're now laser focused on this, and this too shall pass. The company, I still think, has a lot of growth left in it. It's half the size of, it's a third the size of Google, 1/6 the size of Apple by revenues. So Facebook's still relatively small, still has a lot of growth left in it, and ultimately it's the earnings of the company that will matter for the stock.
Lou, what do you make of that argument? And do you agree that we really have seen minimal signs advertisers are going to find anything actionable in this controversy?
Well, I agree with Whitney that ultimately earnings will determine the direction of the stock. The problem is in the near to intermediate term, it's really hard to determine what that earning stream looks like and where that growth is going to come from. You're seeing huge margin pressure within the business now as they spend to try to alleviate some of the issues that they've got, and no one really knows where that ends, while at the same time there are issues of user fatigue. And if we start to see user metrics, which are already starting to roll over a little bit, if that continues, I can't see the stock outperforming in the near to intermediate term.
There's also the threat of regulation from Washington, Whitney.
Yeah.
Are you afraid of that?
It depends on what form it takes. Hard to predict. In some ways, regulation may help entrench the incumbents. That's what happened with the tobacco companies when they got hit with all sorts of regulation. So it's also hard to see Congress doing much of anything meaningful on any controversial topic, given how polarized it is. So again, I personally think some tight regulation would be healthy here. I'm not sure it's going to happen, and even if it does happen, I still think Facebook's earnings are going to be a lot higher 3 to 5 years. Agree totally with the other guests, by the way, that this stock may well be dead money in the short term. This is sort of a buy and forget about it. 3 to 5 years later, I think you're going to come back and have at least doubled your money.
But doesn't it matter what management sounds like and how it be? I mean, you're talking behavior, communication. Yeah. I watched that interview. It was pretty robotic. I think you just called it disingenuous. You can really be a firm believer in the metrics and the numbers and the growth potential if Zuckerberg, who is all powerful in this company and has doubled down on Sheryl Sandberg in this interview.
Yeah. Well, look, I remember being here on CNBC Live when Jim Cramer was saying BP was, quote, unownable after the oil spill. You want to talk about a company that behaved badly, and the stock quickly doubled, right? So sometimes it's amidst that kind of taint that I have to put aside my personal feelings, put on my investing hat, and just say, what does this look like a year to 3 years from now? And these scandals tend to pass.
They do, but I still wonder about people using the platform. What do you see Facebook looking like 3 years from now? Is it largely Instagram? Is Facebook still the important platform for the company? What about Oculus? What about WhatsApp? I mean, how is the company going to be formed in your view? Yeah,
well, look, I think clearly in the mature markets, there's not going to be a lot more growth. Pretty much everyone who's in the United States, for example, who's ever going to be on Facebook is probably already on it. But, roughly fewer than half of the world's adults right now have a smartphone. They are not connected. And I think over the next 10 years or so, a couple more billion people around the world are going to get connected, and I don't think they're going to be buying iPhones, for example, which is why I'm not particularly bullish on Apple, as insanely great a company as that is, but it makes me very bullish on both Google and Facebook. I think a couple billion more people over the next 5 to 10 years are going to get connected and going to start using all sorts of Google and Facebook products.